Welcome back to another edition of the Talking National League podcast. And on tonight's edition, I'm pleased to be bringing you an exclusive interview with Stuart Maynard, the Wealdstone manager. Stuart, firstly, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. You're always better when you win at the weekend. It makes the weekend a hell of a lot better. So, yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, brilliant. It's a pleasure to bring someone like yourself on. And, of course, winning in that fashion as well on Saturday against Torquay, it must have brightened your weekend.
No, definitely. We played really well. Before they went down to 10 men, we'd had a couple of chances and probably should have gone 1 or 2-0 up. And then obviously when they did go down to 10 men, it does make the game quite difficult at times because they defended quite well. Were very resilient.
Yeah, it's always difficult, isn't it, against the so-called weaker teams in the division because, Wealdstone exceeding expectations this season. You're going to places like Torquay, like Oldham, like Scunthorpe, teams down there. It's always difficult because you're expected to get the 3 points. And you know that sides are most likely to put 11 men behind the ball, and it's about you breaking them down and playing on the front foot, which is something that I'm sure, and I've seen Wealdstone try to do, don't they, this season?
Yeah, since me and Matty have taken charge at Wealdstone, it's our second full season. Obviously, we come in halfway through the COVID season. We play possession-based. We try and dominate the ball. We make sure that we have the ball because obviously we are part-time. So there's that thing of part-time and full-time. So we know that to go head-to-head with some of the teams and try and out-battle them and outrun them, it's not possible. It's not physically possible. So we know that if we can be possession-based, dominate the ball and control the elements of the game and don't make it a random game of football, then we give ourselves a real good chance. And we've had a lot of success last season and it's carried on into this season.
How does that schedule work then with Wealdstone being a part-time club at the moment? Because, of course, it's not a case of you look at other clubs, let's say Wrexham, not counting any full-time club in this division. It's 5 days a week, relentless training, etc. While Wealdstone, being in that part-time model, how does the schedule work with training, fitness, etc., match day routine?
So we train on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night. When we have a game on a Tuesday night, a Thursday becomes a second day recovery session. So we just get a chance to do recovery. We don't even really get a chance to train properly and just prep the lads for the next tactics, ready for the next game. And then obviously a match day, same as probably everyone else's match day, where we get in around 1:45 and we start prepping for the game.
Yeah, do you find it difficult then when you go away to sides on Tuesday nights when, half the team, of course, are working? Do you find it difficult? Obviously, players will have to book time off work. It's long travelling. A lot of them will obviously, maybe including yourself, will have to work Wednesday morning. Halifax the other week, for example, travelling all that way up on a Tuesday night. Do you find it difficult doing that as a squad?
It is. It takes its toll. Playing Halifax on a Tuesday night, I think all the lads got back about 3:30, 4 o'clock by the time you get home to your actual house. And then a lot of the squad have got jobs. I was up at 6 o'clock the next day, so you have no sleep. Then that impacts the rest of the week and then your preparation ready for the game on Saturday. So, yeah, it does have a big impact. But, look, we're a management team and a squad of players that we don't want to make excuses and use it as an excuse. The lads really do look after themselves away from football. We do a Zoom recovery on Monday with our S&C online so the lads don't have to leave their house. Otherwise, it's an hour travelling in and you don't really get the benefit of the recovery. So we do a Zoom recovery on a Monday evening from home, which has helped loads to keep the lads conditioned and restrict the amount of injuries that we've had this year.
Of course, yourself being a BT engineer and that's your full-time job. How does that work then? Obviously, BT take control of the National League, give coverage to the National League. How does that work for you then?
No, it's just a job. It doesn't really affect how it works. I work for Openreach rather than BT now. We've kind of separated away, so I'm just a field engineer. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough to combine the both jobs, but you got to love it, and you've got to have a lot of passion. Obviously, you're out every evening at games and stuff like that. So it's a lot of commitment, but we're really enjoying it at the minute.
Yeah, it must be, like you've mentioned, it must be really difficult balancing the two jobs. But for yourself to do such an exceptional job like you're doing at Wealdstone at the moment, it's phenomenal what you're doing, your whole philosophy there. I'm sure we'll come on to that in a little while about the players that you attract and how well you've done with those. But just a bit then on your playing career. So starting your career at Watford, the youth academy, coming through there as an apprentice. Didn't quite work out there, but you had a few loan spells, of course. One interesting one was, of course, FC Groningen in the Netherlands Eredivisie's first division. What was that like for you at such a young age to travel to Netherlands?
I was out of contract and I went out there, and I'd agreed a deal to go out there. I think I was 19 at the time. It was a really good experience. I got homesick, which, you come away, you're 19 and you're used to being around that environment, around team banter within the dressing rooms. And a lot of the Dutch lads spoke good English, but obviously when they're having banter around the dressing room, they're speaking in their fluent Dutch. So it was tough. It was really tough, but it was a really good experience.
Can you speak any Dutch then?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all, no. I wasn't there long enough. I was out there, I think, for a couple of months. I was only there for a couple of months. And then I come home and then got back into the non-league circuit.
Yeah, and then, like you've mentioned, the majority of your career was then spent in non-league at side. You had a short period with Wealdstone. Has it changed a lot since you initially was at the club?
Yes, it has. Yeah, when I was at Wealdstone, they were playing at Edgware, ground sharing. So a hell of a lot's changed. The fan base has grown and grown and grown, which has been incredible. And they've got the ground at the Val now. So hopefully we're building. They're building slowly but surely at the Val. Like the stands are going up slowly but surely, and the club's improving on and off the pitch. It takes a lot. It takes time, but yeah, we're getting there.
You mentioned that the support nowadays that Wealdstone, of course, are getting compared to where they used to be. You look at the fans that they're taking away from home. I remember last season over 150 at Halifax, considering your position in the league that you weren't, I wouldn't say not doing well, because I think at that period of time it was about surviving, wasn't it, in the National League? But you weren't at the same position you were now, bringing 120 fans away from home to every away game. Wrexham, I know a couple of weeks ago you took a fair few up there. How important is it that you've got that fan base behind you that's connected? Maybe not one of the biggest clubs in the division, but you can't fault your fans for how passionate they are for the club.
No, not at all. I think it's the one thing that when me and Matty took charge at the club, that we knew that we all had to get everyone all in it together, and the fans have really bought into it. And they're incredible. Like the Val's hostile when teams come down there and make it really difficult for teams. But I think we've got one of the best away fans. Even when we only travel in 150 to 2, maybe 300 at times, they're so loud. And a lot of times you hear them pretty much all the game. Even when you go to Wrexham and there's 10,500 there, they're really good. They're passionate. They love their club. And they really back the boys. They can see that once they leave everything on the pitch, which we ask of our lads, and all of our lads do that, the fans will always back them. And, they're kind of unique in that way. But yeah, they're a great fan base, and it's growing now. We're getting a younger generation coming through now, which is brilliant. And we've got to keep growing.
Yeah, you certainly have. And I know you were quite a popular club because of what you do off the field and the fan base in this division. A lot of people will underestimate Wealdstone for the fans that they've got nowadays, when the numbers, like you mentioned, that they're taking. They must have one of the highest percentages of the home attendance that they get that actually go to away games in the division. But of course, you started your managerial career quite young as an assistant with Dean Brennan, who of course is at Barnet now, a bit of a rival to Wealdstone, would you say? You started out at Hemel then. What was that like working as an assistant under him?
We kind of, when we come in, we had the title as manager and assistant, but we kind of come in as joint managers from a young age, both of us, and we played together. It was a really good experience. In our first season, we got to the playoff final and lost to Gosport on penalties. And then the following year, we won the league and got promoted to the National League South. So it was a really good experience. You need to learn and need to start somewhere. Dave Boggins, the chairman, always thankful for the opportunity that he gave me. And really appreciate it. And I still go back down to Hemel and watch the games, and I'm still in contact with a lot of people there. It's a really good club. And I hope that they keep doing well.
Yeah, you mentioned that you started quite young, at 30 years of age, when you first started your managerial career. Was that something throughout your playing career you wanted to be after football, get into management?
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to get into management at some stage. I didn't know at what age and that. But obviously, it come along probably earlier than what I probably thought it would, because you feel that, you play to like you're 35 maybe and around that age. But it just felt right at the time. So when I got into it, and I've never looked back, and I've enjoyed it. And I think I enjoy it more than actual playing because there's so much involved on and off the pitch, and the responsibility that you have. And what I like is that you can help players. There's a lot of clubs that these players, they need a home, but they need help. And it's not just about the football stuff. It's on and off the pitch. Managing the lads, because they're humans. They go through rough times off the pitch as well, which people don't see. And it's about helping them through that and then guiding them on the pitch to make sure that they give themselves the best opportunity of having a career, because they're all in it at the level that we're at. It's a career.
It almost felt like with you and Dean Brennan that wherever Dean went, you followed him too. So how was that relationship between yourselves?
Yeah, we've known each other for a very long time. Obviously, everything in life kind of at times comes to an end, and it come to an end, and that's just the way it worked. Dean chose to go to Barnet and left Wealdstone, and I wasn't in the right place to go to Barnet, and I wouldn't have gone there because they're one of Wealdstone's biggest rivals anyway. So yeah, look, I stayed, and Matty come on board with me, and now we're in our second full season now, and we're really enjoying it, and we're having a lot of success.
Yeah, you certainly are, and I think we've seen recently the growth in Wealdstone from where they've come from. I know you had a short period of spell with Billericay, but then you both obviously went to Wealdstone, taking time back when you first joined the role at Wealdstone. How did that opportunity arise at the time to join Wealdstone with Dean?
Rory, the chairman at Wealdstone, he was a mutual friend of people that we knew, so we got given an opportunity, me and Dean, to get an interview. There was a lot of candidates in for the job because it's a very good job. Wealdstone at the time in the National League South, they'd just got knocked out, I think, in the semi-finals of the playoffs against Woking. The previous season, Bobby Wilkinson was the manager. But yeah, we had the opportunity to go and interview, and obviously they liked what they saw. And they gave us that opportunity, and we're very grateful for it. And I'm grateful now that Roy's continued to give me and Matty this opportunity, to show what we can do and lead the club forward.
Yeah, promotion in your first season at Wealdstone. What was that like? Obviously, you got promoted on 70 points, 3 points clear of second place. What was that like for you?
Yeah, we had a really good season. We recruited a very young, hungry group, and we had good bits of experience that was at the club previously to when we turned up to the club. In Connor Stevens, who was a young lad, but he was very experienced, and Chemo, our skipper at the time. So we had a very good, young, hungry squad with good experienced players. Danny Green around it. We brought in Connor Smith as well. He's a very good player for the level. Billy Clifford. Ross Lafayette. I can keep going. There's loads of good players. We had a really good squad assembled, and it was a very tough title race because obviously it ended up on points per game in COVID, and Havant were right on our tails. But the turning point of the season, we went down there and we beat them 4-2. I think it just gave us that momentum and give us that edge over them. So yeah, it was a great achievement.
Yeah, the first season, of course, in the National League, it did have its ups and downs. You would have survived, but obviously we had the COVID season. You mentioned how important the fans were, and I think that was something that would have slightly been a disadvantage for a side like Wealdstone, who need the supporters behind them because of how good and passionate they can be. The first season, you start the season extremely well. I remember it's in my head still, being haunted from when Halifax went down to 9 men and you defeated us due to Danny Parish, like you've mentioned. You had a great start to the season, but later on in the season, Dean Brennan left the club to join Barnet, and then you came in as the interim manager. How did that work? Because, of course, you briefly mentioned it there, but him leaving the club to go to a fierce rival in Barnet, yourself not joining him there. What was that like?
Yeah, it was tough because at the time, COVID had just come around, and we had to furlough 7 of our key players within the space of 2 weeks of actually walking into the job. So it was a really tough time for the football club. It was the unknown. No one in football had ever worked under these conditions. But I was really proud of the players. We ended up loaning players in and being a really young group because we had to furlough 7 of our experienced players because the club was in no financial position to keep on paying the lads to play. So it was a really tough time. I think it was tough for everyone in football, really, because obviously the fans went. There was no one at the games. The National League were us and up towards the top end of football were the only leagues carrying on. It was really strange to actually play in front of no fans. It was tough at the time. And it was tough for our lads because a lot of the big teams, they didn't furlough their players. They see it as an opportunity, and obviously they had the finances behind them to do them. So we had some heavy defeats within that season, but me and Matty learned a hell of a lot from it. So look, the club stuck with us through difficult times, and vice versa. We stuck with the club as well because it was tough to come into that and take the team at that time, knowing that we're going to furlough pretty much all of our squad. So But it was good though. We've learned from it and we've moved on the following season, and we've looked to build year in, year out now, recruiting a young, hungry squad each season. And the aim is still now, look, this season we're having an incredible season, but the aim is to stay in the league for the next 3 to 4 years and consolidate. It can change very quickly. Like we played Torquay on Saturday. Gary Johnson, who's a top manager, they missed out in the playoff final 2 years ago and could have got into the Football League, and now they're in a relegation battle. And that's how relentless this league is and how tough it is. There's no easy games within it.
So, of course, the second season, a 16th place finish. That was the best finish that Wealdstone had in 35 years. And, of course, that was totally down to you and your assistant manager. What was that like then? Because last season, Wealdstone were forced. They were always known to defeat the bigger sides in the Division 2. There were never any real danger of relegation. I think last season they were, and this is no offence to those clubs, but 3 clubs that we sort of knew from probably Christmas time onwards, they were going to go down because there was such a gap between them. What was that like for you? 16th place, best finish in 35 years. Yeah, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was great learning again. To be knowing at the start of the season that we were the favourites to go down. Obviously, Dover had a points deduction, so they were bottom of the league. I still think the league made us favourites to go down, even at that stage, because we're the unknown in the league, and we totally understand that. We're part time, and there's a lot of difficulties. But look, we had a great season. The squad of lads, they were brilliant. Like Josh Umrah, like you mentioned before off air, he got 17 league goals for us, and he didn't score one penalty. He was outstanding for us. And when you can get a forward that can get you 17 league goals like we did, it gives you a real chance to finish in a good league position. And it helped. And other players around, Reece Brown, who we sold this season to Woking, he got 7 league goals as well last season. So we had a lot of players contributing. Our loan players were really good as well. We had George Wickens and Connor McAvoy from Fulham, who was outstanding. George Wickens now is a number 2. He's been on the bench the last 2 games for Fulham. He's doing really, really well at the club, and they've got high hopes for him. So we were lucky. And then later in the season, we brought in Aaron Henry and Charles Claydon from Charlton, and they were exceptional as well. And they got their opportunity this season in and around Charlton's first team. So it's a model that we kind of work with at Wealdstone, that we know that we can get good, young, hungry lads in on loan, progress them, and then hopefully further them and get them back in towards their first teams.
Do you see that as sort of the route that you took, of course, because Watford, it didn't quite work out there. You then spent the majority of your career in non-league. Do you see that as an opportunity for you? You're looking at players that were a bit like yourself, didn't quite make it at those clubs in the higher end of the football pyramid, get them at Wealdstone, make them into quality footballers for them then to move on at, bigger clubs, for example, at Football League level.
Yeah, look, it's something that we want to develop players. We like working with young, hungry players because we believe that it brings energy and enthusiasm around the team. It's how we want to play, with a lot of energy within our side. But that's kind of our market as well. We're not in the market to go sign the experienced players within the division, and we're not really in the market to sign players in the National League South, because obviously our budget is tight, and we're probably, realistically, as a football club, we're probably a top 10 National League South side still. We're punching way above our weight, and it's a credit to the club off the pitch, and also a credit to the lads on the pitch, to the levels they're performing and all the hard work that goes in with the volunteers and everything off the pitch that gets us in the position that we are now. So our model is to recruit lads that are getting released from pro clubs, give them a home, and then hopefully move them back into the pro game.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's 2 other names as well. We've got Jacob Mendy, Michael Afeti, Josh Umrah, Reece Brown, like you've mentioned. Those 4 players there that are some of the standout players. What's your opinion on them at the moment? Because, of course, they've gone on to do extremely well. I'm sure you'll have a lot of praise from that, from what you've done and the part to play in you. And I'm sure them will thank you. And, of course, some of them, because Dean was at the club at the time, the work that you did with those players to make them into these quality footballers.
Yeah, look, I think us as a football club, you appreciate what they did for the football club, and you understand there's got to be a time to move on, and you understand where you are as a football club, that's kind of our model, that there will always be a time when clubs will come and take the players off of us, and that's what we want, because then we get the next Josh Umrah, like we have this year. Like we've signed Fela Olomala, who's done excellent for us, and we've just got Corey Andrews from Torquay a month ago, who's got 3 in 8 appearances now. for us. So, yeah, look, it's something that we look to do. We look to find those players that are not quite doing it at their clubs where they are, bring them in, and then we bring them up to speed in the way that we coach and the way that we play.
Does that sometimes frustrate you when you've got players that are doing extremely well? For example, Reece Brown had a good start to the season, exceptional for you in those opening couple of games, then jumped ship to Woking, of course, a full time. Does that sometimes frustrate you? And do you feel that maybe because you're part-time, it's even more frustrating that you're going to get quality players, but if they are that good and a bigger club comes calling, they're going to go and jump ship?
Yeah, of course. Look, we understand it. Look, it's always frustrating. It's frustrating for everyone, the fans, me as a manager, Matt as an assistant. We all get frustrated, especially when you lose the quality of a Reece Brown. I think it was like 10 games into the season, he had 7 league goals. But we understand that that's kind of our model, and that's where we are at as a football club. And you've got to understand that, because if you don't, you will get frustrated, even more frustrated. We are part-time. And like I said to you, these lads, this is their career. This is what pays their bills and that. So when they get given the opportunity to move to a big club or a so-called big club within this division, it's hard for us as a club to turn it down, and we wouldn't want to stand in the players' way.
It almost feels like as the division's got more competitive since Wealdstone entered the division, Wealdstone have also improved themselves. And that's something that you've also got to take a lot of credit for, because, in the last 3 leagues, we've seen a drastic change in the dynamic of the league, how it's improved. But Wealdstone also improving themselves too and making this division even more competitive.
No, you have to keep moving with the times. You can't stand still. We put a hell of a lot of work into our recruitment, watching a hell of a lot of games on MyScout and getting to the games. Me, Matty and Craig, we see it massively. Recruitment's a huge part of this business, and you have to have your finger on the pulse to make sure that you get the next player, because we know that we're always going to lose players every season. So we've got to make sure that we've got the next batch of players coming through. We signed some very good experienced lads this summer that we were lucky to get. We got them at the right time because deals had fallen through at other clubs, and for whatever reason it hadn't happened. So we were there waiting. We knew that they were going to be key players for us, and it's helped us kick on this season.
Yeah, I remember one of the big names was Max Kretschmark, who you signed in the summer from Woking, and that was a marquee signing, in my opinion. I was quite shocked when I saw Wealdstone. I can't believe they've got hold of him, because he was arguably one of the best players in the division last season. How come you can attract these players? Because we talk about, and obviously your niche in the market is, of course, getting young, hungry players who haven't done well at academy, but you've also got a few players in there that are experienced players at this level, like Max Kretschmark. And, having those, you need those players and characters around the dressing room, don't you, as well? But how do you manage to get hold of players like him?
I think our philosophy now, I think our principles, the way we play, I think it attracts people to us now, because when you play against them, that we dominate the ball, the way we play, the way we overload teams. And I think it's every footballer's dream to want to come and play in a team that dominates the ball and creates loads of chances. And Max had a lot of options in the summer, and a couple of them fell through for whatever reason. And we were there waiting and ready. I kind of chased him for 2 seasons, constantly on the phone, speaking to him, because I see him as a top player, and we knew that his mentality, and he's a winner. He wants to win, and he's been great for the young lads around the place. And that's why I feel that the likes of Max and that have helped us kick on to another level this season.
Yeah, Wealdstone, of course, define the odds every single season with what they've done. But some may say, they're fortunate. They have this game style of putting 11 men behind the ball, as you would think with a side like Wealdstone who've come into this division. But like you mentioned, that's not the case, is it? You're a possession-based footballing side that have outplayed some of the best sides in this division, former Football League sides that have been as high as the Championship. Chesterfield the other week, going away to someone like Chesterfield on a Tuesday night, winning 2-1. One of the goals, 23 passes it took to score in that game. You've mentioned that that's something that you want with Wealdstone. You want them to be a possession-based side going forward. You've, of course, mentioned about when you do lose the better side players in the side who want to go to clubs who have got maybe further up the football pyramid. You've also got to think about, how do we bring in players who obviously replace them? But the style of football that Wealdstone play week in, week out is quite phenomenal to think of how a side like Wealdstone, where they've come from the lower end of the football pyramid to where they are now, playing football this attractable every single week. And you've mentioned that's your philosophy. It's quite phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's something we really believe in, and I think when you really believe in it, it comes across to the lads. We make sure, and that's why the young academy lads coming out of the academies, they're brought up technically, so they kind of have an opportunity to fit into the way we play, and it's just tweaking little parts of their game. And we give them the structure and the blueprint. We play probably 3 or 4 different shapes now, and we'll change it within games, and the lads all know their roles within that shape that they're playing, and it's to create an overload to give us an advantage of making sure we dominate the ball and play on the front foot. And this season we've got a lot of energy in our side, so we high press as well. So we get after teams. We're not a team that sits in and camps in our half, like you said, and then occasionally have little spells of the ball. We'll try from minute 1 to go try and get after teams, and then try and control the game with the ball as well, and create overloads constantly. Try and create more chances than the opposition.
Does this plan sometimes backfire? For example, I know the other week we saw Notts County, and to be brutally honest, it was a bit of a thrashing. I think you did actually mention in one of your post-match comments, you're going to have these games, they were just really good on the night and you can't really do too much about it. What would your reaction be to that then when you get sides that simply, with these bigger budgets, these bigger clubs like Notts County in the division, how do you sort of deal with these sides going forward?
I don't think we really look at how we deal with them in the sense of, look, they've got their business to take care of. They're kind of in another world. Luke's done a great job at Notts County. I think they are one of the best footballing teams within the division. They come to our place, and I think it was 6-1 they beat us on the night. They were super clinical within the game. We don't make excuses. We had 4 key players out, and for us as Wealdstone to go play one of the best teams in the division and have 4 key players out, it's very tough. So that's the key as well, is making sure we keep our squad fit. We've got a very good competitive squad now. For the first time this season, we've got players that are kind of outside the squad, which is good, and they're all chomping at the bit and all competing. So that's how we've kind of looked at it to bridge the gap. And same as when we play Notts, we need to make sure that we try and dominate the ball. They want to dominate the ball, but we want to try as well, because we need to know that we need the ball to control the game. The randomness, take it out of it, and the way that we want the game to go. But it's very tough when you play Notts. They're a very good team. They've got quality players all over the pitch, and a lot of the clubs have in this division.
With being part-time, does inconsistency even sometimes come into play, especially sometimes this season?
I think our inconsistencies have come down to injuries. We had a spell where we didn't win a game in 5. And I think we lost all 5 of them, and we had 3 midfielders out, all in the same position, and 6 in total. I think a lot of the time, if you had a centre-half out, a centre midfielder and a forward and a winger out, I think you can cope. I think when you get them all out in the one area, I think you struggle, and I think every team struggles. And being part-time and having key players out for us, we struggle even more. But we played against your team, Halifax, the other night, and you beat us 5-0, and we had 3 of our back 4 out from the Saturday, and you punished us, and you deserve the win on the night. But it just shows a massive effect to go from being really competitive to losing 5-0, and it can happen in this division.
Yeah, you back that up, though, I have to say. I think you credit for that. You backed that up after a 5-0 defeat, and I'm quite shocked with this to a 4-0 victory over an inform Altrincham side. How can you change from a side losing 5-0 to, let's be brutally honest, a side that's lower mid-table this season, to go into an Altrincham side that are just outside of the playoffs?
Well, we got people back from injury, and it was no special recipe. People come back from injury, and we played really well. We've played well pretty much in every game that we've played this season. The lads have been outstanding all season, and that just goes to show you that we can go away to Halifax on a Tuesday night and lose 5-0, and then on the Saturday we can bounce back and win 4-0 against a very good Altrincham team. Who are in and around where we are in the league as well. But we've got a really good team. Once we get everyone out and everyone fit, we're a competitive side, and we can beat anyone on our day.
Do you sometimes think in the future Wealdstone will be wanting to go into the full-time module?
I think everyone has that ambition. I think us as a management team, we want to be full-time. We want to work with the lads. We feel that we could develop lads even more so. I think that's our biggest disadvantage as a management team is that because we want to coach and improve players, having less contact time with them, it hinders us more. But when we get our time is so valuable on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, we try and make every minute count with the lads, whether it's a video session or on the training pitch. So, yeah, look, we all have the ambition to go full time. The club does. It's just got to be small steps, because you see these stories where clubs try and rush. You go full time and then it just falls over because you just don't have the finances. And at the minute, as a football club, we don't have the finances to make it worth our while to go full time. So we just take small steps, keep progressing season after season, and that's all we can do at the minute.
How would you describe yourself as a manager?
I think I'm very calm. Try and be consistent in everything we do, whether we lose or draw or win. Try and stay very consistent in the way that we speak to the lads after the game and how we deal with it in the build-up. We understand that lads are going to make errors, especially when we've got a young group and at every level. So we do appreciate that. And you've just got to be consistent, whether they have a bad game or good game. And you've got to try and manage them. And I feel that's why we do produce young players, because we're very consistent in how we manage them. They don't feel uncomfortable. We ask them to receive the ball. We take full responsibility for if they give the ball away and it ends in a goal. What we don't take responsibility for is the work ethic and turning up and wanting to learn and stuff like that. And that's all we require of the lads.
What's it like going to places like Wrexham, Notts County? I know you mentioned off air Halifax as well. You know these places with, you've got 5-figure stadium capacities. What's that like for Wealdstone and yourself?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for the club. It's brilliant for the fans. It's our third season now in this league. It's a really good experience. I think that's what drives everyone on, that hunger to go compete with these teams. And I think that's, as a football club now, we kind of feel like we're very competitive in every game we go into. There's no games that we go away. And we've never had a culture as a management team of this free hit. I don't believe in it. Even when we have injuries, we still believe that the players coming in, it's an opportunity. And you've got to go give it your best opportunity. And we believe every game we go into that we have a chance of competing within the game and getting something from the game. I think before games, when players and a club hear you coming out as a management team and saying that it's a free hit, I don't get the mentality of that. We want to win every game that we go into. We're realistic to where we are. And we know that when you're going away to Wrexham, the odds are stacked against us. But it's down to us as a management team and a group of players to come up with a game plan and make sure that we can try and get something from the game. And sometimes on the day it doesn't quite work out. But once the lads are giving everything for the football club, that's all we can ask of them.
Do you think this side has exceeded your expectations?
Look, we had a points tally before the start of the season. We're getting closer and closer to it. And if we do, we're going to have a really good season. And yes, look, we are overachieving. As a management team, we back ourselves massively. So we're always aiming higher than what we probably realistically should be getting in this league. But look, to be 8th and just a spot outside the playoffs at the minute, I think we're 3 points off the playoffs. Bournemouth would have a game in hand. It's so tight at the top. It's an incredible achievement for a football club of Wealdstone size.
I think when I look in Wealdstone, they seem to be doing their business quietly, just going along quietly, and everyone's talking about, your Wrexhams, your Notts, and even the underdogs such as Barnet maybe, who weren't expected to do as well to start the season. Yet you see a Wealdstone side that throughout the season has always been just outside of the playoffs, maybe early on in the season, was inside the playoffs. But, you look at this now, how would your reaction be to that? Do you enjoy doing your business silently without anyone really taking any notice? Obviously, you are getting a bit of recognition, but, you're 1 point outside of the playoffs. There's 10 games remaining. You've won your last 3 games in a row. Do you enjoy that where, you are known to do your business quite quietly?
We just go one game at a time. We don't really listen to anything on social media and stuff from the outside. You just try and you're solely focused on the next game. Like we got Chesterfield on Tuesday night. The minute that we got on the coach from Torquay on Saturday, we're back on the laptop. We're watching Chesterfield and studying and trying to come up with a game plan. Obviously, that's how we look at it. We just go one game at a time. It's exciting for the football club. It's exciting for us as a management team to be achieving what we are achieving. But we have very high standards within our group now. We don't accept anything less. So we want to be competitive, and we've been so competitive this season and the lads are getting their rewards now.
There's been this question throughout the season since you lost Reece Brown, or the one thing missing in this, the final piece in the jigsaw for Wealdstone is a goal scorer, where recently, you've brought in Corey Andrews from Torquay, like you've mentioned, Miko Oberio as well, who's at Huddersfield. He had a short spell with Halifax as well. He's scored 7 goals this season. You must be pleased with the business that you have done so far and finding that goal scorer, but is there any further transfer activity that Wealdstone might be doing in the upcoming weeks?
We're looking to possibly bring in maybe one more player just to fill the squad, to make sure that, if we do get injuries, that we're covered for the run-in to be competitive. We're always on the lookout. We're always trying to improve. When we bring players in, we don't bring players in to replace players within our squad. We bring it in to make it more competitive. Because we look at it as a team this season. The team that started the first game in the season, it very rarely finishes the last game. And this season, everyone's played their part in our squad. The whole squad, the subs on Saturday come on and made a real impact. The people outside the squad, when they've come back in the squad, they've made a huge impact. So we've kind of got that momentum now that we're all in it together, and everyone's just waiting for their opportunity now. And it's kept a real hunger and desire within the group. If we could possibly add one more player, because we lost Miguel Freckleton, who got recalled by Sheffield United, who was outstanding for us, to go in and around their first team squad now. So if we could possibly recruit a defender, I think that'd be us done.
So 10 games remaining, then 1 point outside of the playoffs. Of course, 30 points to play for in total. If you had to give, and you don't have to answer this question, but if you wanted to give a point out that you feel that Wealdstone, of course, have to get into the playoffs, how many points do you think within those 10 games and the size that you are playing in those 10 games, how many points would you feel you should be getting?
I wouldn't like to say how many points we should be getting. I feel the playoffs this season, I think you're going to need around 73 to 75 points to get into it. So it's going to require us to win a minimum of 5 games and pick up points here and there, which is going to be a massive, massive ask. So we're not really thinking about it too much. We don't really talk about it too much as a group. We just focus on our next game, and that's how we worked. We don't look too far ahead. We just look to the next game all the time, and it is a little bit boring and a little bit cliche, but it's true, and it's the way we worked, and it's brought us a huge amount of success.
Yeah, of course, Chesterfield on tonight will be a big game down at the Valley, of course, for Wealdstone. Big crowd, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Hopefully that the fans will be there and pack it out like we do and be as noisy and make it hostile for Chesterfield to come down. We had a really good game against them a couple of Tuesdays ago. We drew 1-1 down at their place. We went 1-0 up. It was a really tough game, and it was a really good footballing game in the end, in the second half, end to end. And we looked for it to be a really tough challenge now. They're right in the mix. Paul's done a great job at the club. Some huge clubs at the top that want to get promoted out of this league, and they're one of them.
Yeah, they certainly are. There's a lot of big clubs within there that are wanting to get promoted, and Wealdstone, on another side, themselves will feel this is a massive opportunity for themselves to get promoted. But of course, if the worst did come to the worst, and maybe you didn't make the playoffs this season, which of course is something that you're wanting to do, and in my opinion, you're in a very good position to do that with the games that are coming up. You'll be wanting to build on this, won't you, next season, moving on and of course, getting one step further and being in the playoffs once again. And it's not a case of, this is a one season miracle that Wealdstone are doing. We've seen over the last couple of seasons and the progression that Wealdstone are making, 19th first season, 16th second season, this season you're 8th. You're making steps going forward, aren't you?
Yeah, we've improved every season, and that's what we aim to do. At the start of next season, the same again. The aim will be to stay in the division as much as us as a management team and us as a squad of players. Like you say, the ambition will be a hell of a lot higher than that to aim above it. But for us as a football club, we need to get focused for the next 2 to 3 years in staying in this division again. It's a really tough division. And if you take your eye off the ball, it can really punish you. And you can end up in a relegation battle. And before you know it, you can be relegated again. And it's a real tough task to get back out of the National League South as well. So, look, we'll make sure that every year we aim to improve. We're having an outstanding season this season, and we will look to build on it next season. We'll look to try and keep as many of the squad together as what we can, because we believe we've got a real strong squad, and we do believe if we could add to it the next season, who knows? But look, we'll keep looking to build and keep looking to improve.
So we've got some quick fire questions to end the video off then, the interview off. The first one that we've got then, what type of television do you watch?
I don't really watch much television. I'm quite sad. All I really watch is football. I watch the odd murder mystery with my wife on a Sunday evening. But yeah, I pretty much watch Y Scout.
Fair play to that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm quite similar with my addiction to football, so I can't argue with that. The next one we've got, what's your music taste?
I like a bit of Mariah Carey, which I get a lot of stick from the lads growing up. But yeah, a bit of everything. I like a bit of R&B. So yeah, I like a bit of everything.
Yeah, I know Mark White said R&B, so a few similarities there.
Yeah.
So when you are in the dressing room then, what's the pre-match playlist like? Do Wealdstone players do that?
Yeah, well, they have a DJ set every week, and it's not my choice of music, but you're kind of in and out of it. So, but yeah, they do have their DJ.
Yeah, the next one that we've got, who's the funniest guy at the club?
I'd say Dom Hutchinson's a little bit of a joker. He's a funny lad. He's a young lad. We got him from Watford in the summer. He's got a great character about him. Yeah, he's funny. He's always in the mix. He's always in amongst all the lads in the jokes and winding people up. So yeah, he's a funny guy.
Who's the worst dresser?
The worst dressed? Oh, I'm going to say Jack Cook just to give him a bit of banter.
Oh, well, he's club captain.
He is club captain, yeah.
Right, you'll have to give him one for this one then. Best trainer at the club?
Best trainer? To be fair, training's very competitive. It's hard to single out one individual. I'd say Alex Dyer, Max Kreshmars, Sam Habigan, the experienced lads within our group, they set the standard very high for the young lads, and that every week they turn up, whether it's a Tuesday night in winter raining, they turn up and they keep the standards high. So I'd say between them three, they set the standards very high for the group.
Who did you support as your boyhood club?
Liverpool growing up. John Barnes and Kenny Dalglish were my favourite players. So yeah, growing up I supported Liverpool.
Who inspired you as a child?
Paul Gascoigne. Watching Paul Gascoigne growing up. He was a top player. It was sad some of the injuries that he had that probably held him back for me for being probably like a world class for many years. But yeah, top player. I love watching him play.
Perfect meal.
Perfect meal. I like a curry. I like a lot of food. I love my food. So that's a really tough question. I'll go with a curry, a nice curry.
Yeah, can't argue with that at all. That'd probably be mine. Best away stadium in the division, in your opinion? Now, this is going to be quite a controversial one.
I'd say Notts County. I think there's a lot of big clubs within the division and a lot of nice stadiums. I think Notts County is probably the best stadium that we've been to since we've been in the division. Any
other interests than football?
Not really, no. I'm football mad and that's it really. I'm addicted to football.
The next one that we have, I believe is, who wins the league title then, Wrexham or Notts County?
I think Notts County have been the best team this season for me in watching them when we've come to play them and actually watching them within their games. I think Wrexham will just get over the line with the firepower that they've got and the squad that they've got, the finances that they've invested within their squad. I feel that they've got kind of a League One team really. So I think they'll just get over the line. They've got some firepower at the top end in Mullin and Palmer. So I think they'll just get over the line.
That most wraps up the interview then. I do really appreciate you coming on, Stuart. It's been great to speak to yourselves, and I wish Wealdstone the best of luck until the end of the season.
Thanks for having me, Luke, and speak